Elsa continues to barrel towards Jamaica after strengthening to a Category 5 Monday. Adam Klotz has the latest.
Major storm continuing to move its way across the Caribbean. This is going to be the strongest storm on record ever for Jamaica. Winds overnight up to 175 miles an hour, just barely moving at the north-northeast at 5 miles an hour. A slow-moving storm, obviously more dangerous. That means more time with the wind, more time with the rain. Flooding going to be a major concern. Getting over to Cuba, ultimately the Bahamas as well. Once it reacts with Jamaica, it does start to back down, but it stays a hurricane. It'll take a while to weaken. By the time you get into Wednesday evening, you are talking about winds down to 110 miles an hour, but it ultimately does head out to sea, so no risk here of any sort of interaction with the continental United States.
President Donald Trump spoke to troops stationed aboard the USS George Washington while visiting Japan today. The president touts the strength of the U.S. military.
Together with our incredible Japanese allies and all of our allies all over the world, we stand strong, we stand proud, we will stand taller than we've ever stood before, and we will be freer and braver and more brilliant than ever before.
President Trump and U.S. officials attending a business meeting with Japan's leaders today. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the U.S. and Japan have agreed to investment deals worth an estimated $490 billion.
The commitments ensure the economic and national security of the United States of America. We're going to be developing energy. We're going to be developing nuclear, semiconductors, and strengthening the entire domestic supply chain.
The government shutdown is facing pushback from the largest federal workers union. This, as some Democratic lawmakers are clashing with critics over health care as the Obamacare open enrollment deadline looms. Congressman Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey explaining why he thinks Congress should pass a continuing resolution to buy time to fix health care.
Democrats are doing this. Even the union knows it. It is a clean CR so we can negotiate the other stuff out. It's not complicated. It's been done many times before, and the Democrats are trying to make it like it has something to do with health care. It does not. The CR needs to be passed so then we can deal with health care.
The Texas Agriculture Commissioner proposes a solution for the cattle industry. Robert Thornton explains.
Houston Public Media and other outlets say Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller is pushing back against President Donald Trump's call to import beef from Argentina, saying it would hurt Texas ranchers already facing historically low cattle numbers. Miller agrees with Trump that beef prices are too high for consumers. He made these comments on Fox's Will Cain program.
The Argentine beef, there's two problems with it. Number one, it's very low quality, so we have to use it for hamburger meat only. So it will bring down the price of hamburger meat, but it's not going to bring down the price of those ribeyes or sirloins or other high-quality cuts. Number two, under the Biden administration, for the first time in my lifetime, we have an agriculture trade deficit. We are buying $48 billion more food than we export. We've always been a breadbasket of the world. We fed ourselves and everybody else, but that reversed under Biden. So continuing to buy food from outsourcing our beef from another country makes that problem worse.
He said he sent a plan to the White House last week which proposes ways to strengthen domestic beef production without relying on imported meat.
We could do a tax incentive. These cow-calf producers are making pretty decent money right now. They could use a tax break. So we could use a tax credit much like the child tax credit. You get $1,000 off if you have a child 17 or under, right off your income tax. So we could give them a heifer retention tax credit. That would be great. They would jump on that like a duck on a June bug.
I'm Robert Thornton.
Many Americans will be voting on something this November 4th.
As we watch world events unfold and fulfill Scripture, it's hard to believe anyone could doubt God and His Word are real. And yet there are so many who either question or completely refuse to believe it. The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that hits the doubt head-on with evidence that proves God is real and His Word is the ultimate authority. Watch it anytime and invite others to watch with you. Just visit stream.afa.net. That's stream.afa.net.
Welcome to Real Truth for Today with Pastor Jeff Schreve, Senior Pastor of First Baptist Church in Texarkana, Texas. Now, here's Pastor Jeff.
Well, good morning and welcome to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Schreve here. Wanted to read to you from Colossians chapter 3, beginning in verse 23. The scripture says this: whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord rather than for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Christ whom you serve. Well, I'm excited to welcome my guest to the program today, who found his calling in life as a football coach, and he was a football coach for over 4 decades. He started in high school and then advanced to the college ranks, and he was at the University of Texas for 17, 18 years with Mac Brown, and he's there a long time. But he won a national championship with Mac Brown in 2005 as the offensive coordinator of the University of Texas, with Vince Young as his quarterback, and he's a good friend of Barry Norton. Barry Norton was the coach at Texas High, and Barry was a member of our church, and so Barry hooked me up with Coach Davis, and so it's a joy to get to talk to him today. We're going to talk about the college football business from the inside. What do you see on the inside? So, Coach Davis, welcome to the program today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate it so much, and I was reviewing your history. You've been in football since you were a young guy, played quarterback at Port Neches Grove just a few years after Bum Phillips went into the higher ranks. Is that right?
That is correct. Bum was the head coach at Port Neches when I was a freshman, and at that time, freshmen was not in high school, so he left along with his son Wade, and they went to the University of Houston.
Yeah, Bum. They have a documentary about him. I saw something on Facebook about it. They call it "Love You Bum." I'm looking forward to seeing that. I was in Houston during the "Love You Blue" era, and with Earl and all those guys, and
sure,
so looking forward to that. Okay, so you played quarterback in high school, and you knew the game from a young guy. So tell us about playing the position versus coaching the position.
Well, I don't think you have to have played quarterback to coach it, but I do think it helps.
Mm-hmm.
Because understanding what a quarterback is going through, the pressure, especially the quarterback has to know everything. The running back is lining up and he has a blitz pick up, and you don't have to tell him, hey, you got a first blitzer from 22 out, and at the same time the center turned around and said, hey, I forgot the snap count. And he's directing the protection in many cases, and then always the defense can bring more than you can block. So in that case, the quarterback is responsible to beat the last defender, with the football. So it's a fun position, but it's a complicated position.
Well, Greg, it seems to me that a good quarterback is critical. Maybe not as critical in high school. If you have a good running back, you can just run the heck out of the ball. I saw Pleasant Grove. Pleasant Grove is the team here in Texarkana, and I saw them play for the state championship against Cuero, and Jordan Whittington was the all-star player at Cuero, and in the second half, they ran Wildcat. They snapped him the ball every single time. They didn't throw a pass. He just ran it, and we couldn't stop the guy.
Right.
So
right. It's go ahead.
Well, but in college and in the pros, if you don't have a really good quarterback, it seems to me you're not going to win. So do you see it that way?
Absolutely. I think as you get higher in the game, the quarterback becomes more critical, and you could be a good football team, but most of the teams that win it all, both at the college and the professional level, they're playing with an elite quarterback.
Coach, how come, and I had Tim Tebow on the program about a year ago, and I forgot to ask him this question. Would have been a difficult question, but how can you have a guy that is so good in college and not as a quarterback? I mean, just the top of the heap, and not make it in the pros?
Well, part of it is, the game is different, and part of it, some guys' game does not translate to the pros as well as others. And you mentioned Tim Tebow. I mean, certainly one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. And he had a solid pro career. The average life expectancy for a player in pro football is usually just under 4 years. But he certainly didn't have the success at the professional level that he had at the college level. And Tim's game was he was a tremendous leader, and tremendous runner, tough as nails. He wanted the ball when the game was on the line, and but he wasn't a great passer at that level. And, for that reason, I think that's why his game didn't translate to being, the same kind of success he had in college as a Heisman Trophy winner.
How about somebody like Vince Young?
I think Vince was similar. Vince was the first quarterback taken after our 2005 championship team. And Vince had worked very hard to become a quarterback. And by that I meant when Vince came in, he was a great athlete that was playing quarterback. By the time he left, he was a great quarterback that was also a great athlete. And people seem to forget that as a true rookie in the National Football League, he was offensive rookie of the year. He was a Pro Bowl quarterback. And he was well on his way to becoming the quarterback that certainly the Titans and everybody else thought he would be. Vince has a unique story, and, he could share that story. I'll just say this. I think in the grand scheme of things, Vince got some poor advice and maybe didn't handle everything as well as he could have or would have. And because of it, his career was cut short. Mm-hmm. He was also, Jeff, if you will remember, he was a little bit ahead of it's okay to have a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
I think guys like Vince and Michael Vick helped guys like Lamar Jackson because, they were the first guys to come in and have some success at that level, being able to run and throw. And at one time, the NFL was, we just want a guy to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball. And now I think everybody would like somebody like a Patrick Mahomes that can extend the play and can make things happen with his feet.
Well, I've maintained this. Let me see if you agree or disagree. That if I were an AD or a college football coach, and I had one pick for the first player taken all time, I'd take Vince over anybody.
Well, obviously, I agree with you. He's plus he's still a friend of mine. And
yes.
He's 6'5", 240. I'm not going to make Vince mad. No, he was a very unique guy. He was a tremendous competitor. Vince did not get the credit that. Here's an example. I always said Major Applewhite did not get the credit he deserved at Texas for being as athletic and as good a passer as he was, because everybody couldn't wait to tell you how smart Major was.
Right.
And he was brilliant. Well, everybody the first thing that comes up when Vince Young is mentioned is, oh my God, could he run? Was he tough? Was he physical? And Vince, on the flip side, doesn't get the credit for being the passer he was. That, people forget that in the national championship game in 2005, he completed 30 out of 40 passes against USC. That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, he was a great player. He was the greatest. He was the greatest quarterback I ever coached, and I had all the way back Gary Kubiak at Texas A&M. I mean,
oh wow.
I was fortunate enough to coach 7 or 8 guys that that continued to play in pro football. So, yeah, he was something special.
So Gary Kubiak, my sister married David Kubiak, who's a cousin of Gary's. David played at Sam Houston State back in the day. I didn't know if you knew him. He was a high school football coach for his career. But, small world. Well, Coach, you spent a lot of time with Mack Brown, and you guys were good friends. And, boy, those had to be great years.
Oh, they were. I mean, Mack and I hooked up back in the early '80s, and he brought his staff, his offensive staff. He was the coordinator at LSU, to A&M to visit, and that's where we first met when I was at A&M, and we spent 3 or 4 days together, our offensive staff and his offensive staff, and that's where the friendship began. And then when he left LSU, LSU offered me his position, basically based on his recommendation. I did not go because I was enjoying A&M. But anyway, several years later, when he became the head coach at Tulane, I joined him there. I took over when he left, got back with him at North Carolina, and then came to Texas in 1998 with him. And I was his coordinator there for 13 years. So, yes, we go back a ways. We've had many ball games together.
Well, I saw a clip or a quote from you. This was online, Coach Davis. You talked about the Iowa coach when you finished your career at Iowa, Kirk Ferentz. Is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
So he had a quote and this is what you said: "The men who leave this program are prepared for life, for careers, to be great husbands and fathers." And I thought, that is so good. And that reminds me of what Mack Brown said after you guys won the national championship. I thought it was one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard. And I told him this when he came to Texarkana to visit Barry. I said, "Coach, the greatest quote I ever heard is when you told those guys after they won, don't let this be the greatest moment in your life. You go and be good husbands and good fathers and make a difference in your community." And I thought, man, what a time to instill that in young guys' minds and hearts. And that just made me love the guy even more.
It was. Yeah, it was. Many people over the years have brought that to my attention or asked me about that time in the locker room. And it was such a heartfelt thing. He said, and it had great wisdom. So.
Yeah, it was just awesome. Well, we're talking to Coach Greg Davis. He was the offensive coordinator for the University of Texas for many, many years, won a national championship in 2005. And we're going to talk football today. You're listening to Real Truth for Today with Pastor Jeff Schreve, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Candace talks about finding out she was pregnant. Thankfully, an ultrasound provided by Preborn allowed her to hear her baby's heartbeat.
The sonogram sealed the deal for me. My baby was like this tiny little spectrum of hope. And I saw his heart beating on the screen. And knowing that there's life growing inside, I mean, that sonogram changed my life. I went from just Candace to Mom. Thank you to everybody that has given these gifts. You guys are giving more than money. You guys are giving love.
Preborn currently has clinics that do not have ultrasound machines. Would you consider a leadership gift and sponsor a machine today? These life-saving machines cost $15,000, more than most centers can afford. Your donation will save countless lives for years to come. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/AFR.
We see and hear about the big public issues happening in our nation's capital, but what about the things that happen behind the scenes? That information can give us the whole story and help shape our opinions. That's why you need to listen to Washington Watch Weekend with Tony Perkins. He and his guests will give you all parts of the Washington news from a conservative Christian perspective. Catch Washington Watch Weekend Saturdays at 5:05 a.m. and 6 p.m. Central, and Sunday mornings at 3 Central on AFR.
As a nurse, I primarily work with children who are abused and exploited in trafficking, and I frequently see very unfair situations. We must talk about the issue of abuse. We can't base our actions on fear. We have to be faith-informed in what we do.
The Dr. Nurse Mama Show. For more from Dr. Jessica Peck, tune in at 2 p.m. Central on American Family Radio or on the podcast page at afr.net.
This is Bible League International. Not far from the conflict in the Middle East right now, Mahmoud was an Islamic cleric. He accepted the invitation of a Christian friend to attend a Bible study.
I was born and brought up in a Muslim family. I started reading the Bible not to know the Word of God, but to find out the faults.
The Holy Spirit would convince Mahmoud he was a sinner and there was no other name under heaven by which to be saved except that of Jesus. He was labeled an infidel, kicked out of his village, his family's left him. He's never seen them since. But today he's a pastor and a church planter. He's planted 15 churches ranging from 13 to 30 people, and he's praying for Bibles there in the Middle East. By October 31st, Reformation Day, AFR and Bible League want to bless 4,000 Bibleless believers. You've done it for 2,000. We've got a long way to go. So at $5 a Bible, $100 sends 20, 500 sends 100, and every gift matched. Will you call 800-YES-WORD? 800-YES-WORD. That's 800-YES-WORD, or give it sendbiblesnow.org. Sendbiblesnow.org.
This is Real Truth for Today. Podcasts of the program are available on the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to Pastor Jeff Schreve.
Welcome back to the program. Pastor Jeff here, talking to Coach Greg Davis. He spent almost 44 years in coaching. He coached in high school, played high school football, played college football, and then went into coaching, began coaching in high school, and then went to the college ranks, and then made it to the University of Texas under Mac Brown as his offensive coordinator, and they worked together at the University of Texas for 13 years. They worked before that together, but came as the dynamic duo to the University of Texas, had great success, won a national championship in 2005. Now, I'm a UT grad, and my middle daughter Amy went to UT and was part of the Texas Angels, and so I love that program. Now, Greg, I have to say that I'm maybe not a great fan because I want them to win so bad that I can get so frustrated with them. Do you share any of that as a coach?
You know, yes and no. When you're just a fan, and I don't mean to say just because college athletics doesn't survive without fans, but all you know is that was a bad pass, that was a good pass, that was a bad play, that was a good play, we won, we lost. And in many cases, the fans don't realize what happened. And Sark said it the other day. He said, the offensive line gets blamed because we're not protecting Arch. Maybe it was the back that missed the block. Maybe it was the tight end that missed the block. Maybe a receiver saw a blitz and was supposed to break his route off, but he didn't. Maybe Arch didn't see a blitz. I mean, there's so much to it that it's not a simple answer. It's a bad pass or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a coach, you have a little better understanding of what they're going through when things don't look good. But do I want them to win every night? The last 2 weeks in overtime have aged me. Not as much as when I was calling plays, but you want them to do good. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so how difficult is it to be the head coach and the offensive coordinator? That doesn't seem like very many guys could do that.
Well, there's quite a few guys in pro football that run one side of the ball. There's not as many in college, and I think part of the reason is because the head coach in college is asked to do so many other things, from alumni to money raising to speaking for the Kiwanis and the Optimists and the future farmers and everybody. His day sometimes does not allow him to just sit and study film. However, having said that, Sark has an outstanding offensive mind, and he grew up on that side of the ball. He grew up calling the plays, and as he has said, that's how I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna give it up. I do think they have to do a good job of balancing their time. The other thing, Jeff, that there are so many other people in the building now that were not there when I was in college, and I don't mean just at Texas. I mean, you look at the number of employees that the football team has. 5 or 6 analysts. I mean, we had 3 GAs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a general manager. There's an assistant general manager. There's a guy who's in charge of the portal. There's a guy who's in charge of. So there are a whole lot more people involved in doing those other jobs, so I think Sark feels like he has enough time to do it, and he's going to do it. So I'm all for him.
Well, Coach Davis, now it appears to me when you get to the position of head coach, like Mac Brown over that huge program, Coach Sarkisian over the Texas program, you don't really coach anymore. You have assistants and coordinators that do the coaching, position coaches that do the coaching, and you're kind of managing coaches at that point. Am I far off on that?
No, you're not. You're not. There's now everybody. The business of college football is very similar to the business of Ford Motors. It's very similar to any other business. There are more than one way to be the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And some head coaches are like, hey, I've hired you to be the offensive coordinator, you to be the defense coordinator, you to be the special teams, and I expect your units to perform well. And I have confidence in that, and I'm going to try to give you what you need for those. And that's one way to do it. And that's the way, because of what you mentioned earlier, that's the way a whole lot of head coaches are doing it now. There's another way of doing it that says, okay, I'm going to sit in on the offense on Monday and Wednesday, and I'm going to sit on with the defense on Tuesday and Thursday. I'm going to swing back and forth during practice so I can see both units as they're working, and I want to know totally what's going on both sides. So that's another way. And then the third way is what you're asking about, is I'm going to run one side of the ball, offense or defense. I'm going to hire somebody to run the other side, and we're going to meet on game day.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bunch of right ways to do it. Mac early in his career, and I think he would be fine with me saying this, was very, very much involved because he grew up as an offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
As he got older and the position grew and expected more and more and more of him, then he became more like the CEO kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my vision for this company being the University of Texas, and I want to look like this on offense and defense and special teams, and I want to look like this in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to hire people to help me achieve that goal. And he was highly successful, doing that. Hall of Fame career, as a matter of fact. So, but there are multiple ways of running a program, just as there is a business.
Well, Coach, when you're the offensive coordinator, because you also served as a head coach, what's more fun, being the head coach or being the offensive coordinator?
That one's easy. That's maybe the easiest question of the day, with one caveat. It's more fun to be the head coach at the end of the month when those paychecks come in. But it's in terms of daily working, day by day, being a coordinator is I think the most fun in the game, because you get to touch all the kids and you know them. I mean, they're almost like your children.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot more fun.
So on your side of the ball, if you have maybe a quarterback's coach or an offensive line coach that you're not meshing with very well, do you have the authority to get rid of him, or does that have to come from Mac?
Again, there's multiple ways of doing things. Everybody I was ever under, Jackie Sherrill, Tom Wilson, Mac Brown, Kurt Ferentz, the coordinator had a say in the hires under him,
mm-hmm.
but he didn't have the final say.
Okay.
I think if a coordinator would go to a head coach and say, "Hey, Pastor Jeff, this is not one of our kind of guys,"
mm-hmm.
I think he would think very long and hard about making a change. But that's the way it's set up most of the time, that the head coach makes all the personnel decisions.
Okay, so Coach, you got out of college football before NIL became a thing. It appears to me, from the outside looking in, that NIL is ruining college football. It's making it very, very difficult for coaches. You keep players, if they get mad at you because you coach them hard, they're going to go somewhere else. It just seems like we've opened Pandora's box of evils. Weigh in on that. Tell me what you think about NIL and how the state of college football.
The short answer is I totally agree with you. The more in-depth answer is right at the end. I've been retired 10 years. This is my 10th football season to be out. But right at the end of my time, Coach Ferentz came back from a Big Ten meeting, and he said, they're talking about paying the players. What do y'all think? And we had several guys on the staff that were, older veteran coaches. And everybody said, "Hey, man, that'd be great." I mean, I played at McNeese from 69 to 73. And at that time, we made $15 a month. It was called a laundry check. And my buddy that played, Tommy Landry, that played at the University of Texas, he made $15 a month. And my other buddy that played somewhere, everybody made $15 a month if you were a full scholarship player. So we thought when Coach Ferentz brought that up, I said, okay, well, that was back in the early 70s, and now we're talking, what's it going to be, $1,500 a month now? $2,000 a month, whatever that figure is. Hey, that's great. And there's no advantage. The University of Texas gives $2,000 a month, and Texas State full scholarship player gets $2,000 a month.
Everybody gets the same.
But that's not what happened. That's not what happened, obviously. And so I think the model that they had thought about and wanted to bring forward was a good idea that was really embraced by the coaches. But what made it to the floor and got voted in was not. And I don't think the game is as good now as it was several years ago.
No, I don't either. While you were talking, Coach, I was thinking about the movie about Bear Bryant, the Junction City or Junction Boys, and it just shows how brutal it was back in the day. How would the Bear do coaching today?
Well, I think he's probably happy he didn't have to worry about that. Yeah, and it's a shame that I feel certain, and I don't know this for a fact, but I feel good about saying this. That's part of the reason Nick Saban got out.
Right.
I mean, you lose something when it becomes total business. I mean, I have a friend, several friends that are in the business, and they say, a guy comes in and says, Coach, I have to leave. What do you mean you have to leave? I thought you enjoyed it here. Coach, I do, but y'all are paying me $300,000 and State U across the line is going to offer me $700,000. I can't stay. I've got to go. And that's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I read somewhere where Sark said if you go into the portal, you can't come back. You're off the team at that point. I think that's wise to put a line in the sand there. Otherwise, they're back and forth.
Right.
Well, that's a shame. I was talking to somebody. Well, I think it was you yesterday that said, or somebody told me this. They're talking about trying to do NIL in high school. Is that correct?
It wasn't me that that came up with, but yes, you are correct. There are several states that are trying to decide if that is going to be part of their high school athletics.
That's just crazy.
And I hope it's not. But and I will say this: the Texas High School Coaches Association is maybe one of the strongest coaches associations in the country, and run by football men. And I would think that they would have a very strong opinion that should not go on. So,
yeah, I would hope so. Yeah. As the scripture says, it's the love of money that is a root of all sorts of evil, and some by longing for it have wandered away from the faith and have pierced themselves with many pangs. Money's amoral, neither good nor bad, but when you start focusing in on it, when you start loving it, when everything becomes about money, it just poisons the game, or poisons the business. It poisons the heart, because it's just it sets your mind on things that are not right. And we obviously in the Christian life, we're commanded to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith. Well, we're talking to Coach Greg Davis. He was the offensive coordinator at the University of Texas back in the day when Texas won the national championship in 2005 with Vince Young, and Coach Davis worked with Coach Mack Brown for many, many years. When we come back, we're going to be talking about all these coaches getting these huge payouts, and how you and I can maybe get in on that. Just kidding. But you're listening to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Schreve here. We'll be right back after the break.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
If you are 65 or older, you know this, inflation is hitting everyone hard right now, especially when it comes to healthcare. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have skyrocketed by, get this, 230%. If you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are still out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles and copayments, and they really add up. But here's some good news. MediShare 65 Plus is designed to fill in those gaps and help protect you from rising healthcare costs. At only $99 per month up to age 75, you get peace of mind at a price you can afford. And MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around 30 years. It's not some big impersonal thing. It's a community of people helping each other, business owners, pastors, retirees. People love it. MediShare 65 Plus just makes sense. To learn more, give them a call. They're great to talk to. They'll offer to pray with you each time you call, too. Call now. 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE. 833-45-BIBLE.
This is Franklin Graham, and I've got an idea for Christmas, and that is to fill a shoebox for a child somewhere in the third world. These children live in poverty, and what I'm asking you to do is just take a shoebox and fill it with items for a child. Put toys, school supplies, and then we give these boxes out, and we do this in Jesus' name. And put your picture in there, put your address in there. Maybe the kids can write you back, but we need you to be a part of it. God bless you. Thank you so very much.
Visit SamaritansPurse.org/OCC to get involved. You can be part of sharing the love of Jesus with children in need around the world. Operation Christmas Child is collecting gift-filled shoeboxes during National Collection Week, November 17th through the 24th. Make your shoebox gift fun, full, and personalized by filling it with toys, school supplies, and personal care items. Then bring your packed shoebox to a drop-off location. Children will hear the gospel alongside your gift and be invited to join a discipleship program. Visit SamaritansPurse.org/OCC to learn more.
If you'd like to contact Pastor Jeff, email pastorjeff@fromhisheart.org. Now, back to Real Truth for Today with Pastor Jeff Schreve.
Welcome back to the program. Pastor Jeff here, talking to football coach Greg Davis, retired after almost 45 years in the business of coaching young men in high school, and then most of his career in college as offensive coordinator for the University of Texas for 13 years under Mac Brown, and then for 7 years at Iowa under Kirk Ferentz, and just had a great career. Now, Coach, we had talked about these gigantic payouts that these guys are getting. So Jimbo Fisher was the biggest one at $76.8 million. He had a 40-22 record at Texas A&M, and you're not doing well, so see you later. Here's a check for $76 million. Brian Kelly just fired at LSU. They had to pay him $54 million. James Franklin fired this year at Penn State. Here's $49 million. Now, he had been the coach there for 12 seasons, had a 117-37 record. Gus Malzahn got $21 million. Billy Napier just fired $21.4 million. This just seems, from a fan's perspective, from an outsider's perspective, you ask yourself the question, who's making these contracts from the schools side? Because it seems ridiculous that you'd pay somebody so much money to go away. How do you see it as a guy that was on the inside?
Well, as we have talked about off the air, it's the university's fault. It's whoever created the contract. What happens is very simple. Jimbo was an anomaly. Jimbo and Scott Woodard knew each other, and that's the one A&M wanted. They went after him. They gave him a 10-year deal with all this money, 90% of it guaranteed. And when they decided to let him go, they owed him this huge amount of money. In most cases, what happens is a guy comes in, you hire a guy, and you typically hire him on a 4 or 5 year contract. And 3 years into it, the guy is just, he's the best thing since sliced bread. Mm-hmm. And you think, as a alumni, as a board, as an AD, I have got to lock this guy up. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't, somebody's coming after him. Somebody's coming after him, and we're going to lose him. Mm-hmm. So what do? You give him a 10-year deal, like James Franklin had. You give him this massive extension and throw all this money on top of it, and then 3 years later, instead of somebody coming after him, you're ready to get rid of him.
Right.
And I know that's not, nobody likes to be fired, but that's what the contract, that's the protection of it. The other thing that happens, and people don't understand this, and in many cases, it's not just the school that's paying that amount of money. I'm not going to mention a school. I'm not going to mention a coach, but I am going to tell you and your audience that sometimes Nike, sometimes Adidas, sometimes Puma, sometimes other factors get involved with raising the money that is needed for a coach to be let go. Mm-hmm. So, but it's a contract supposedly is supposed to protect both parties.
Right.
You have a contract on your house. Okay, you can't come take my house as long as I'm doing my end and I'm paying my mortgage.
Right.
And so, the bank is protected and I'm protected.
Right.
I blame, I blame the institutions, the universities that whoever is allowing those contracts to reach that long-term deal.
Coach, what do you think about...
Now,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you, so Scott Surratt, coach of Carthage Bulldogs, one of the greatest high school football coaches in high school football history, in my opinion. With all the wins he's had.
I think you're right.
How does a guy like that, let's say you're a school and you say, we're going out of the box. We're not going to pay these huge amounts of money. I'm going to hire Scott Surratt to be my head coach or be my offensive coordinator, even though he's never played never coached in college. And I'm going to pay him $1 million, way under what these huge contracts are paying. Do you think a guy like Scott Surratt would be successful?
I think good coaches can coach at any level. I know Scott. I knew Scott when he was on Barry's original staff. Mm-hmm. And yes, I have no doubt in my mind that good coaches can coach at any level, and that Scott would be successful. The reason that is not done is, and you mentioned Scott, so I'm going to use his name. Scott is hired at LSU. He brings nothing initially to the table,
right,
in terms of splash.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that the guy that was at Notre Dame? Oh, yeah. Wow. We're LSU. We just went and hired the guy from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's a splash. Now, as you and I know, not all splashes are good splashes. Some of them are cannonballs. That's why that. Not too long ago, within my lifetime. Not A&M. Notre Dame hired a high school coach.
Willingham.
Call his name right.
Wasn't it Willingham?
No. It was he was from a Catholic high school right there.
Yeah.
In Indiana. His name will probably come to me in a minute, but
he didn't do very well.
And he didn't do very well. So that has been done, but that's why it doesn't. I mean, you've got to. It's your responsibility as a whatever office you want to say, president, chancellor, AD. I mean, you have to protect your university.
Yeah. Now you could somebody could hire Scott Surratt to be their OC without suffering much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that could certainly happen.
All right, now, Coach, let me ask you this. I mean, you're a football guy, but you're a sports guy. So when I played basketball in high school, and I was real close to my basketball coach, and I think coaches and the coaching profession has the ability to influence young guys for the Lord and for being responsible, men of character, men of godliness, those kinds of things. Maybe more than anybody else because they spend so much time with them. But a basketball coaches, the head basketball coach, I think of John Wooden, one of the greatest coaches ever. Well, he had what, two or three assistants? I mean, basketball doesn't necessarily have a lot of assistants. You don't need that. You only got 12 guys. But that's a profession where you're actually going to be coaching. And as we said, in football, it seems like you disconnect from the day-to-day with the players. How does a coach in a head coach in a position like the University of Texas not lose that connection with the players?
Well, I think that's a really good question, and I think part of the answer to it is that you're involved in different ways. Maybe you're not sitting in a offensive line meeting and conducting the coaching of that drill, but in many cases, at places like Texas and other places I was at, you would have like a leadership committee where each class, it had nothing to do with football per se. You would say, okay, I want 2 freshmen elected. I want 2 sophomores. I want 2 juniors. I want 2 seniors. And they don't have to be your greatest players. In some cases they were because those guys were leaders. And then the head coach meets with them, every Monday morning and has breakfast with them. I think the other way is, being involved in the locker room, being involved in the training room, being involved in the off season, being involved. That's where you have a chance to really get to know your players. I know one thing we always did. I did it every year I coached. At some point after the season, I would have all the quarterbacks over to my house. And then at some point in the summer, I would do the same thing during open week. But I wanted them to see me outside of the guy, at the whiteboard. I wanted them to see me as a husband, as a father.
Right.
And it allowed me, to share my faith without beating them on the head. The good book says, let your light shine. It doesn't say shine a flashlight in their face. And so I tried to carry myself where they knew there was more to me than just a football coach.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, you do have to work at it, especially if you are in a CEO type mode, because you're right. There's 120 guys out there, and there's 9 assistants and a head coach and 3 strength coaches and 3 trainers, 4 trainers, and there's people everywhere, and you're being pulled as a head coach here and there, and then here's Joe Big Bucks just walked on the practice field. I got to go talk to him.
Right.
Those it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it would be hard. That's one of the other things that I see, coaches, that if you go back, back to the Bear Bryant days, there weren't very many coaches on the sidelines. Now you have just so many guys.
Yeah.
Does it become hit a point where it's like there are too many cooks in the kitchen?
It certainly can be. It certainly can be. I was looking at a staff the other day of one of the universities that have let their head coach go, and I had Googled them just to see if I knew anybody on the staff, and the list of the number of people, from general manager, assistant general manager, portal manager, high school relations, and then all these other, senior offensive analysts, junior offensive analysts, it was just it was amazing, Jeff, how many people that were under that. And if all those people have a voice with your quarterback, that's way too many. And I told the offensive coaches at Texas, and I'm certainly not alone in this. I said there will be one guy that talks to Vince Young, to Colt McCoy, to Chris Sims, to Major Applewhite. There'll be one guy, and that's me. Yeah. Now, obviously, Mac Brown can talk to whoever he wants to. He's the boss. But, and all I meant was I didn't want the receiver coach, in all good faith, a quarterback leaving the field, and the first thing he hears is, if you can hold it a little bit longer, Johnny's breaking open in the end zone.
Yeah.
And then the running back coach grabbing him as he's on his way to the headset saying, man, if you can get the ball out to Tommy on the flare route quick, he's got some space. He don't need all that information. That's not information that's helpful.
Right.
What he needs is to sit down and say, okay, this is what I saw. Did I see the right thing? Emory Ballard hired me at Texas A&M ages ago.
Yeah.
And one of the great teachers of the game, and his question to the quarterback was always the same. Tell me what you saw.
Yeah.
Because what you saw creates the way you should have reacted.
Yeah.
And
well, Greg, we are out of time, but man, this has been so wonderful. I'd love to have you back, my friend. I can talk football with you all day. We were talking to Coach Greg Davis, and thanks for listening to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Schreve. Go out today, shine for Christ, and share what great things the Lord has done for you, and God will use you as His witness. God bless you.